I would say this is the first time I've looked at it in a while and been like, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of this. You know, it's interesting with these rankings. Every week we get more and more detail. I think we get more and more insight to what the committee's thinking. You now have a new committee chair. Remember Mac Rhodes? He jumps in or jumps out because of whatever circumstances were going on with him. And so he changes. And now you got Juracek, who is the Arkansas AD, who's now filling that spot. And so I think the most telling thing is always once you get past the reveal and all that good stuff that goes on, then you get to hear his comments and quotes. And I think it's something to consider because now we know how they're thinking, what's important, what's not important. So I think the biggest thing that we talked about on the show was the top was pretty simple. And I thought the top was pretty simple for the committee, and they went Ohio State again. They went Indiana 2. They went A&M 3. They went Georgia 4. Makes sense. Georgia was at 5. Makes sense to slide them up. Then it was the debate to me between we talked about with Texas Tech and Ole Miss. And I thought it was going to be Texas Tech because of circumstance. They went with Texas Tech. If they went with Ole Miss, not criminal. I don't think I wouldn't have been offended. I know some people would have been upset. But I definitely wasn't upset with that. And then we got into the meat of the discussion. This is where we talked about, like, we gave you 7 through 10, and we're like, you have at it. Like, make your case why it should, why it shouldn't happen. And the way they chose to go was Oregon 7. Then they went Oklahoma 8, Notre Dame 9, Alabama 10, Miami 11. And then we got the spin the wheel of destiny, and you get good old Tulane in there. Even though their coach, which was a great quote, the coach was like, Coach Summerall was like, man, I don't think we're a top 25 team. We're a top 25 team. We're not going to be ranked. Nah, we're not a top 25 team. So that rounds out the playoffs. And then you got the first team out was BYU. Next team out was Utah, which is fantastic for the Big 12. Absolutely fantastic to be ranked there. Brent, when you start looking at this, the first thing that stands out to me is Alabama's losses were more impactful than anything else. And how you determine this with the coaches, or how they determine it with the committee is their decision. But Oregon immediately goes to 7. So that it has nothing to do with Oregon wins. If it was Oregon wins, then Oregon would not be there. Oregon would not be at 7. So the committee immediately is saying, okay, they only have one loss. That matters. And so one loss, they were ahead of all the other 2 loss teams, moved to the top. Despite the resume, we hear about strength of record. We hear about all of that different stuff that comes into play. To me, it looked like a simple case of, okay, they've got one loss. We're putting them ahead of all the teams with 2 losses.
Yep. And that's where so much of this becomes gray, but also maybe clear for them. And if you're someone moving forward and a team moving forward, and you see this time after time after time, it's like, okay, it's better to have one loss than have a monster schedule and drop another one. Like it just ends up being better. But yep. The Alabama Notre Dame debate, because Oklahoma should definitely be up there ahead of them, and we had them ahead of them as well. But then, it's one of those things where I also don't pay a whole lot of attention to it and the comments and all that, just because they talk over themselves and they contradict themselves with everything that they say. It seems like the person who's doing the interviewing there with losses.
And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. They do that because you got a guy standing up there that's talking to you about all of this detail, but it might not be what he believes, because this committee chair represents the whole committee. So right. He might have been one fighting for Alabama to be at 7, but the way the committee voted, the Alabama's at 10. So he's got to stand up there and define it. And at one point he goes, hey, Alabama's not running the ball real well. They haven't ran it well for the last couple weeks, and which means, hey, at least they're watching. That's a talking point, because that's a talking point for us. To me, it's why their offense hasn't gone to the next level. Their offense is really, really good. It would be nuclear if they could run the ball. Like it would be absolutely unstoppable. And then you protect your offensive line. Like everything would kind of to fall into place. So they're at least watching and there's talking points. But he said,
I wish they would have like their actual metrics and where these teams are in their actual metrics. Like to me, like with college basketball, like when we do that thing, we're always looking, and they've got on the record against this RPI, all the various quad one wins, all that. It's all on the screen, and like they're showing it. I wish they would do that here and be very transparent with it versus just hey, here it is, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's
Notre Dame versus Alabama, though. What do you think there?
Well, I mean, I had Notre Dame above them, so like I was in the camp with them. Now, why they say like I don't mention I think Notre Dame's, I'm not mentioning losses unless there's a reason to mention losses. Notre Dame's losses, they very easily could have beat A&M. If you watch the football game, they had them beat. They missed an extra point. Like it was a bad deal. Like who knows what would have happened. The Miami game, again, we talked about it. Like first half, new QB, handcuffs fully on. Like I just think there is some circumstances there. I was moving past Alabama's loss to FSU with the first week, and because of what they had put together, now you put together another loss. Like they're both 2-loss teams. One has a huge loss. Now, one has a way bigger resume. So which one do you deem more important? Is it what you've done on the field and who you've beaten according to your rankings? Or is it the way it's looked and the way you lost? And they said it's the way you lost. Like losses having less losses matter. And here's what else matters. Having closer losses. Like that's what, to me, that's what it seems like they're looking at. Like not all circumstances are going to be the same. But I can look at Notre Dame unbiasedly, and I can say Notre Dame is a really good football team that played 2 really good football teams to start the year. If they played both of them again in a consecutive order right now, they wouldn't lose to both.
I'm saying they're probably favored in both games.
They wouldn't lose to both. Now, listen, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in that. How about Miami jumping in this conversation? Because the closer Miami gets up here, the more the head-to-head. For God's sakes, I hope so. Because why are we even playing football if the head-to-head doesn't matter as the most important criteria? Because they have their criteria that they deem important. And the committee's criteria is head-to-head is one of the biggest, along with strength of schedule, comparative outcomes of common opponents, and other relevant factors, whatever that means. More vagary, more gray. But Miami, they're not going to play for the ACC championship unless the ACC just ACCs, which it could happen. Who knows?
It's so far from a possibility. But it's still possible. Yes,
it's possible.
It's possible. Non-zero chance. Non-zero chance.
Back to the 9-0 chance. But they'd benefit the most if some other things happen. If they can get in that Notre Dame cluster, if they can get compared to Notre Dame head to head, obviously they'll have a legit gripe to be ahead of Notre Dame because they beat them.
I think if it's sort of truth serum to the committee, and if you could hear in the conversations, they're probably sitting there thinking like, "Hey, Miami, go just destroy these, win these last 2 games by 30 plus points, and then some other stuff will happen, and we'll be able to just put both of you in."
Yeah,
I think that's what they're hoping happens, that Miami. But like we talked about, the way this is working, the ceiling for Miami is they're either the 10 seed or they're not in the playoff. Likely.
Yeah.
Unless Georgia Tech wins out. I think if Georgia Tech wins out, they might be higher. And, Miami could be an 11 seed. But for the most part, like because the ACC champ is going to likely be the 11 seed, the G5 will be the 12, they need to be at 10 to get into the playoff.
Well, and how about our boy, Yurachek? He goes, comparing Miami and Notre Dame, he's like, well, Miami has 2 worse losses than Notre Dame does.
But one of them is 2.
Hey, bud. Hey, bud, is this thing on? Like, they lost to them. Like, they lost to them. Like, they literally lost to them. Like, I get it. And if you want to make a case, like I just made a little bit, like if they played now, maybe Notre Dame would win. Maybe they'd take care of business. But, like, I really need
talking hypotheticals there.
I really need you to say, like, okay, they lost. Like, they lost to them. I would love to hear that, man. So Bama plummets from 4 to 10. Uh, and then I just happened to look on that outside looking in, man, and I'm just looking at Utah just banging around right there on the outside, like sitting there really, really pretty in case something happens, which we know we've seen with this season. And that's the one for me I don't understand. Like I
Yeah.
I I don't get that one. I don't know why, but I don't get why Utah is ranked as high as they are. I feel like there's something, obviously, the dominance against a couple of teams that they may perceive well, but it ain't nobody that we've seen that's up here in this mix. That's for dang sure. Because the two teams that are up here in this mix went open hand. BYU did not. BYU was a good competitive game, but
No.
Texas Tech, obviously, they knocked them back till next week.
My guess is that game control metric has a lot of weight. And that's basically just how bad you beat the people that when you beat them.
Yeah. I get
bet because I bet their game control number is actually high compared to some of these others.
It is. No, it is. It's a high number, but
there's also probably a reason why that number is high.
I mean,
I think
we're talking about Arizona State. Like that's what we're gonna hang our hat on. Like Arizona State's the team that we had good game control over. When they played more competitive teams, it hasn't been that case. I mean, they beat TCU. They slapped TCU and they beat Iowa. No, they slapped Arizona State. They slapped Cincinnati, who continues to plummet. They lost again last week, and Baylor. And then they got destroyed by Texas Tech and with a backup quarterback, which hasn't looked like he got hurt, but that QB came back down to earth and didn't look human. I don't see that.
The other big picture thing though is they value the. Oh, go ahead.
I don't see that when I look at Vandy, who's beaten Missouri, beaten LSU, Missouri's in the top 25, which I think is a debate too. Like Missouri, Tennessee, some of those teams at the bottom. How you look at that, because like Tennessee, well, first of all, let's finish Vandy. Vandy beat Missouri, Vandy beat LSU, and I think they lost by 16 to Bama. They lost by 3 to Texas, so their losses weren't atrocious. They lost to, a decent team and a really, really good team. But I feel like Vandy's shown me more than Utah's shown me. Like consistency, beating better teams. Now, they haven't slapped people around like BYU has with Arizona State and UC, but I would say I don't have the same respect for Arizona State and UC and Baylor. I'm sure y'all can get upset with that, but remember, Auburn beat Baylor.
Yep. I do think, though, that they're showing love to the Big 12.
Yeah.
With Houston being back in now, with Houston's 8-2, Arizona State being back in, and then how high they have BYU and Utah, like it does set up a scenario where it's might be hard for them to leave an 11-1 in the Big 12 championship BYU team, depending on how it goes this week. But there'll be losses, there'll be chaos, because there are always losses, and there's always chaos. USC could throw a big monkey wrench in all this weekend, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But
I think the Oregon was probably the biggest surprise with that. Was just, okay, well, they got one loss, so I think they took the easy way out instead of saying who they beat, how they could get around it. And then the group of 5, like all you need to know is whoever the American team is next in the pecking order, just throw them in there, because that's 3 weeks in a row with Memphis, USF, and now Tulane gets thrown in there. I mean, so obviously a lot of love.
Haven't been watching James Madison enough.
No, apparently James Madison's not good enough. We had.
I think he's ranked in the AP poll, aren't they? James Madison, ranked in the AP poll.
They were ranked. They were the highest ranked team in the AP poll, but their game control apparently hasn't been good enough. They played Louisville. It was a really good game. I
yes, it
was
watching
that game. Like they pushed them to the brink. But good old rankings. I would say this is the first time I've looked at it in a while and been like, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of this. So
I mean, if teams, the thing that's always interesting to me when you look at these, especially late in the season, is projecting ahead if all these teams win out, if there is no chaos, if there is no, from an upset standpoint.
It's a waste
and you've got a 10-2 Miami, 10-2 Vandy, 10-2 Bama, 10-2 Notre Dame, like just.
Here's what possible. You know there's going to be a bunch of 10-2 teams that are fighting for the mix. Like that's what you know. Like there's going to be those. And then and I think the biggest question this sets up is how do they approach conference championship losses? Because
Yes,
you
it's
might
going to
play in
matter
the
this year.
conference championship, and because you lose in the conference championship, you might lose out on playing in the college football playoff. And so, I mean, to me, it's kind of a debate, and we can kind of go there next too. But like to me, it's do you want to play in the championship game? And if you're Ryan Day and company, Ryan Day talked about it, and I thought it was a good answer. He was like, "We're trying to get there. We haven't been there. Like all these kids on my roster haven't played in the Big Ten championship game." And I'm like, gosh dang, they haven't. I think they haven't played for it since 2020.
Because Michigan has beat them every year.
Yes. So like that matters to them. Texas Tech, are they a team that if they're in the championship game and they lose, they're out? Like I can't imagine a world where that should happen. Like
to a team they likely beat already.
To a team they've already, slapped, like already beat up pretty good. So like, I think that we're looking like ACC. Can they get themselves out of a bid? Like, do they lose a bid because of they've got to rank that person ahead of the other team? Like, there's so many. Like Alabama, if you go to the SEC championship game and you lose, are you out? Like you're a 3-loss team now, sitting on the edge. Like there's a lot to digest there, man. Like. I would definitely like if I'm certain fan bases, I'd be like, I'm good. I'll take the rest because nobody can get hurt. I still have a chance to go play for a national championship, which is the most important thing. But when you start a season, coaches are definitely programmed. They're like, number one thing, win your conference. You build your team to win your conference. I get that. I'm like, as a fan of my team, I'm like, rather not play. I'd rather rest, not get anybody hurt, and then my seating is where it is. I get to host a playoff game maybe if I'm right there on the edge. Like, you get all kinds of good stuff.
The local team, they might go, like, they're 4th right now, Georgia. And they might go and not play for, 5 weeks?
That's not good. That's not good.
If you go and if you beat Georgia Tech, you're 11-1 and not in the SEC championship game, and you're the 4 seed, you're not playing again until New Year's Eve.
Well, and think about how do you handle it with Ohio State and Indiana, because they're going to play for the Big Ten championship. How do you handle it with A&M? Like Georgia's in. Like Georgia's in the playoff, even if they lose to Texas Tech. So there's so many things right here. Like you're playing for a bye. You're playing for bragging rights. You're playing for the trophy. Like those are things that like those teams. I'll be interested to see how they handle the situation. Are we going all in? Are we playing every snap? Are we doing everything we can? Are we Ohio State going? This is our competitive game that we need. We need something to come down to the end. Like
I wonder. I also do wonder: is all this going to change? So here's a hypothetical for you: Texas Tech is a 12-1 Big 12 champion. And Georgia's, 11-1. Do they flip flop them? And or like Indiana as a 12-1 non-Big Ten champ, do they get dropped to the 5 seed? And you move those teams who are conference champions up a little bit in a way, and you value that and all that sort of thing. It's going to be fascinating to see.